He's an international man of mystery, and he's on V'ger Please, a hateful voyage to the Delta Quadrant. My name is Joseph.
And I am whatever I need to be at this exact moment, Peter.
Before we discuss this week's episode, a little bit of V'ger Please. Mark your calendars, reminders. When you hear this episode, it will most certainly be December 16th, 2021 or later. You can expect to hear our review of Endgame, Voyager's final episodes, on December 23rd. A little Christmas treat for everyone out there. We will then do a Season 7 Voyager Rest in Peace as a normal recorded episode that will be provided to all of you before you ring out the year on December 30th. And then to be determined, but in the first week of January, as we emerge into 2022 and all of the new vistas that will be before us, we do want to give Voyager its, I guess, deserved final farewell and do a whole Voyager Rest in Peace. And that one is going to be special in a number of ways. We are still organizing that, and what that's going to exactly look like. It involves a live element for Peter and I, and we want to make sure that lines up with their schedules and what day it'll be. We want to include our patrons, all kinds of stuff. So we're still working that out, but you can expect a regular episode the rest of the month, and then a hopefully not disappointing finale for everyone that's managed to come along on this journey with us, which we thank you for. So with that all out of the way, Peter, what did we watch this week?
Season 7, Episode 27, Renaissance Man.
So this is, I guess you would call it the Doctor Senior Week episode?
Fitting that they save the best character that Voyager produced for the last send-off episode of Season 7.
This is so rich in all of your years of canon that you have built on this show about the effectiveness of holographic crew members. This episode has everything. It has the Doctor literally triple tasking while on the Delta Flyer. It has him as the perfect spy, as the perfect physical combatant, as just a one-man wrecking crew.
It's interesting that you mentioned the word canon. You're referring to headcanon.
Yes.
The canon you should be talking about is the arm cannon that you get in Super Metroid right at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Classic video game action going on here where you're at the end of the game and it's just the end boss, and they give you that gun that can like one shot everything, and wow, the thing is so fucking powerful. This is what I'm going to use to kill the end boss. You can't have that cannon in the beginning of the game, or it's too easy. There's no challenge. They save the Doctor's true form, his true potential,
his Terminator potential.
You're encroaching on my title idea. But everything this guy's ever been capable of, everything we've ever pointed and said, hey, why can't the Doctor do X, or why can't the Doctor do Z? It all happens in this episode right at the end. So by the time they finally establish, yeah, he's capable at this point of doing all this stuff, it doesn't matter. There's nowhere else to go minus the exit FMV, full motion video end credits we're going to be getting to the series here. It is ridiculous, and of all the things, well, I don't know. There's nothing here that he does that's quite as ridiculous as bringing people back from the dead. But it gets close.
We are officially never going to let that go. We have only one episode left. We're going to successfully hold on to that as possibly the biggest what the fuck stupid thing that this show actually put on the air.
God help DS9. If we get through Enterprise and we end up doing DS9 after all, I'm clawing that necromantic feet from Voyager's corpse across to Enterprise. And I'll give Enterprise, it's earlier. I'm not going to hold it accountable to this nonsense. But DS9, the first time someone dies who matters, we're going right back into, fucking
Bashir, what are
throwaway
you
holiday.
doing, man? You gotta just post-mortem revival. Let's
Yeah,
just
that's
do
all,
it. Let's
dog.
bang it out.
I get you don't have nanoprobes laying around, but certainly you can do what an EMH can pull off.
Season 1 of EMH, if I recall. Like,
Sure.
not early EMH.
Mhm.
Not like fully developed Terminator EMH, which I mean, let's do the litany. Okay, he is a master spy. He impersonates multiple members of the crew with high level of competency. He is effective at manipulating every ship system. He can do.
Piloting
He
shuttles,
can pilot the shuttle. He can encrypt communications.
set up
Uh,
dampening fields,
uh,
site to
he
site transport.
he is apparently got some downloads from the Matrix because he can do wall running, including the dopest bad CG wall run disarm phaser shot that
Straight out of if any of you played the LucasArts Star Wars Jedi Knight, there was a lot of wall running in that, and I would say that scene right there felt well at home.
the
Uh,
the
jumping incorporeally through walls and tables.
the Doctor is genuinely super OP in this episode. That is the plot. The plot is, what if the Doctor decided to use all of the Colonel Campbell solid snake training that he got at all the different times that he has encountered danger and put them to work all at the same time in service to what? A bunch of discount Ferengi Voyager fans who want to sell the fucking ship for parts.
Them Tater Boys.
The Tater Boys are back. The recurring characters you didn't know you needed. Here they are.
Who would have thought the last real episode of Voyager would feature as the villain not the Borg, not not space Mewtwo's, not the fucking Vidians, not even the Skeevians or the discount Kmart Klingons, but fucking Tater Boys. I thought the last time we'd see Tater Boys would be what was it, the Void?
Yeah, they were part of the coalition where we got kind of like all of the, late Voyager races were cooperating. But Peter, the Tater Boys are officially the last like invented Voyager race that we see in the entire show.
Not a bad send off. Not a bad send
I
off.
mean, they are representative of Trekkies, as we determined when we had the original Tater Boy episode.
It was empirically proven. The worst enemies of Voyager do end up being Trek fans. That tracks. We're going to open up with a reoccurring villain in its own right that I have noticed, and that is Amazon Prime's skip intro sucks.
Yeah, it's weird. It's by skip intro. Apparently it means skip about 8 seconds. Like dump you into a different part of the intro.
Yeah.
Little imprecise.
Now, luckily, the Voyager intro's pretty great. So it's not that big of an inconvenience, but I know what's coming up.
Yeah, are you savoring having this like nice instrumentation, very very Trek sort of opening with the vistas of the ship?
Beautiful.
Yeah, just
Berman
beautiful.
era
Mhm.
design language. It's so nice. I am scared shitless to go into Enterprise, and I've been hanging on to these last few Voyager episodes with both hands. And the fact that we are somehow at the end of the line, and this constant for us for the past 3 years?
It's going to be 4 years
4 years?
almost to the day when we wrap it up, from when you and I started doing like test recordings and that sort of thing, because we fired
So
that
be
off at the beginning of January 2018.
kicked out of the warm carpeted floors of a Holiday Inn Express out into the cold, barren wasteland of Enterprise's miserable opening. Not looking forward to it, man. And I'm not. All I have to say is, Amazon Prime, you better fucking ship up that skip intro, because it is going to be life and death hanging on that thing.
Also, life and death is, I really want to live the rest of my life without hearing the Doctor sing opera, lest I die from the assault on my ears. Sadly, this was not a day where that would happen, because we start with some music that the little assholes would truly love if only they knew it was happening.
Maybe I think they've grown out of their Doctor EMH phase. You got the Doctor flying the ship. It's the Delta Flyer, and it's just him and the captain, which seems like two very important people to send off at the same time. They're returning from some sort of a medical conference, and um, we see a lot in this scene. And again, if you've been watching and paying attention this whole time, it is a rewarding moment because we are moving into a developed character of Catherine Janeway, who does not look at the Doctor as a oven or a medical appliance, but as an actual crewman.
Yeah, to the
And
point where she has fought openly in Federation court for his rights.
yeah, so
You know,
there's some warm banter going on there.
it's still at that level of, while I see you as a person, I see you as a very annoying person type of thing. She's not super fond of his personality, but is trying her best to see him as the person that she has clearly come fully around to him being.
We also
And
find out the Delta Flyer is not soundproof.
no, apparently, 24th century technology has not come around to the Doctor being able to belt his opera in the operating section of the vessel and not wake up the captain of wherever the rack is. And she goes to get her coffee after being woken up, uh, to find the Doctor not only singing opera but piloting the ship while writing a paper. So he is maximizing his not a flesh and blood personness, and even starts to kind of like get a little holographic supremacist in his discussion with the captain about it.
Yeah, the admission here is once upon a time he would have given anything to be flesh and blood and just a normal crewman, but he has come to this point to embrace his synthetic nature. That it's interesting. He always calls himself a hologram, and he never, it's never. I love being AI. I love being machine. It's hologram, which is silly because hologram is just the flavor of his physical form. It all comes down to code, but he has turned to love it, which is an interesting development in light of some of the very serious situations he's found himself in, such as what was the Hirogen one where they go, was it Flesh and Blood? Whatever one where the Hirogen have been hunting holograms for
Yes.
sport,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That is flesh and blood.
and you get the foundations of a new what was it, the religion of the guiding light or something. The episodes focused on holographic civil war with the humans that made them, and there's been a fair amount of rogue AI interacting with the Doctor, preaching the superiority of over skin and bone. So him ending up at
Yeah,
this
a little of
conclusion.
that has seeped in. Like he's comfortable with who he is now.
Mhm.
But he still loves his organic friends, of course. He's a good robot.
Sure, as long as that line of code stays intact, keeping
Those
those
ethical
ethics of
routines. As long as some rogue Starfleet agents don't come by and decide to just pick those off and turn him into an immediate monster with no hesitation, he's
but
fine.
hey, what's the odds of someone ever editing his code? Speak of the
Well,
devil.
yeah, we don't see what happens on screen, but we see that there is some unsteadiness as they pass through a nebula of some kind. And when we end up back at the ship, we get a brief scene where B'Elanna's first with Vorik, former attempted rapist of Vorik, working on some sort of space doohickey in engineering, only to be called away by Tom, who apparently has replicated a lunch of fried chicken and potato salad with extra paprika.
And stored it in space Tupperware while wearing his Hawaiian shirt. How quaintly 90s.
But I imagine something you can relate to is the, hey babe, let's go do something before our child is born. Let's just go have lunch while we can still have peace and quiet between two people.
You think that's what you want, or sex, or whatever carnal desires you have. In fact, it's you look back and go, God, remember I could just come home from work and lay on the bed and fall asleep.
No fried chicken dinners. You just
That,
want the blissful
who
unconsciousness.
that's light years beyond just the most basic. God, remember I could just sit there and look at the wall and not hear someone putting some bodily fluid on the floor behind me, or God forbid the carpet. Yeah, Tom and Balana, if only you knew what's in front of you. I'm really surprised that Balana hasn't popped the kid out yet this deep in the season.
Oh, that's such a save it for the finale moment. You know it.
Again, my heart goes out to Roxanne Dawson for being saddled with a baby bump a second time after the first time they fought so hard to hide it. Like, what a fuck you.
Well, I mean, they even have a moment in the episode where she doesn't have to wear it. They do a gag.
Yeah. I didn't even
Yeah.
think about that. Yeah.
Uh, at one point when the doctor like impersonates her, it's without the bump, so she's like in the normal uniform, and then the doctor notices, "Oh, I'm not pregnant. I should fix that."
Mm-hmm.
But um, she declines the fried chicken and potato salad. Sorry, honey, I got to finish my work for the captain before she gets back.
I
It's
want to say, if Tom really was a student of the old ways, that fried chicken should have been in a bucket, a red and white bucket.
I might have
Not.
been that might have been a little too copyright infringy for
It could have
Paramount
been
to get away
a
with.
bucket, just not fucking Tupperware. Come on, guys.
I
Come on.
think this might be the scene though between the two of them that had the most like genuine easy chemistry in the entire run of the show. Like they're just like having the normal married couple conversation.
And she's
They,
like, "No, I
they
got to go scrub the warp core because I promised the captain I've had the plasma, what's it called, back on time before she gets in." And he's like, all right, cut up to the bridge, and it's go time."
oh, that's the best scene in the episode by far. You have Harry Kim in the captain's chair where he never belongs, but really the star of this scene, and you can tell because he's the one who's in focus with the camera dollying around him the entire time. It's the man, the myth, the legend, our consistent favorite background element, Smoldering Catcher Guy himself, Lieutenant Ayala, who is in a red uniform and at the con.
And also, according to X-Ray, he is credited as Tactical ND, whatever that means.
I don't know what that means either, but what I do see is finally our boy getting like 3 lines in a row. Like this is all the talking he does in the entirety of the show, except for the one time when he gets asked if he knows how to use a bow and arrow or he like can run fast in Basics Part 2, and he's like, yes. Like that's it. This is the only time Terry Gerson ever gets lines and gets credited for having lines. And you can tell that this was a reward for him being a background extra for 7 years because they set this scene up just for him. And seriously, the camera is focused on him and it dollies to the left and focuses on him as he delivers his very important lines about the techno nonsense that's happening around them. It's like, all right, buddy, this is it. This is your time to shine. Put this shit on your reel. You earned it, bud.
Mm-hmm. This is resume happening real time. The disturbance they're picking up is the Delta Flyer coming in hot, and it is hitting them with a beam off the main deflector. Now, I'm kind of getting a little bit of a flashback from that last Kess episode where she slams her shuttlecraft into the ship and causes a little problem there, but no, that's not what's going on. Something happened to Delta Flyer. It got fucked up. Regular comms aren't working, so they're sending a weird signal along the deflector dish to communicate with Voyager. And hey, I want Chakotay in my ready room ready to talk ASAP. I'm coming in with some hot news.
So we've already spoiled it, so I want to talk about it using the information that we now know. Throughout the rest of this episode, the main drama is that the Doctor is pulling the greatest op that this ship has ever seen from this point forward. He basically chain impersonates different members of the crew to accomplish what appears to be some fucking rogue AI bullshit at the beginning. but we will later come to understand is him trying to fix the problem of the Tater Boys having captured the actual captain. And what's really neat about the performances in this episode is that everyone is just a little bit wrong because they're being played as if it is the EMH interpreting who they are via his understanding of them. He can look like them and sound like them perfectly because he's got his all of their parameters downloaded into his mobile emitter, but his impersonation of the captain isn't quite exactly the captain, and you can tell.
A lot of hand gestures, a lot of speech patterns, and we've seen this before. We jump back to maybe it was Flesh and Blood where he's sharing a body with Seven.
Yeah, so like in that episode, Jerry Ryan had to play Seven as if Seven was inhabited by the Doctor, so she was acting more like the Doctor. And this is even kind of like second level because it's it's Kate Mulgrew acting like Janeway, as if she was being impersonated by the EMH. So she's much more short, she's much more formal. She is trying to basically do a caricature of what he interprets the captain to be like, right? It's not exactly correct, and you can tell from the beginning that something's up, but it's not like so obvious or so weird such that it's like, okay, throw a flag on the field. Clearly the captain's been taken over by some sort of, demi q, and we're all fucked
Which,
right now.
let's reflect on that for a second. We used to really harp on the formulaic dilemmas that Voyager run into. Why is this guy acting weird? Is it space madness? We haven't seen space madness in a long time. Is it outside alien influencer? We haven't seen that in a while. Doppelgangers, this, that. Uh, Using the Doctor as the vehicle to tell this story is interesting. And what I really like is that all of these portrayals are well within tolerance of how that person would act. Like, is it spot on? No, but I don't fault anybody in the crew for not spotting that something is up. And that's for a multitude of reasons.
It's close enough such that it's not some, like, the fact that Chakotay kind of has to go through a process before he's like, okay, you're not actually the captain, right? Like, that makes sense.
Mhm.
It's credible.
And it's because the Doctor is very intelligent. It's because he's working with a database of known activities. It flows. I really like the plan that he comes in with. Um, is as plausible as it is. So, fake Janeway calls Chakotay into the reading room. Hey, we've encountered a new species light years beyond where we are technologically. Um, they've got all sorts of crazy tech. I'm going to lay it on the table. Now, here's the problem: they are eco extremists, and they believe that traditional warp drive is destroying the subspace fabric, and they have outlawed it on threat of disassembly of any ship that's caught using it within their um, territory. So we have been ordered to report to this planet where we are going to surrender our warp core, and in exchange, you will let us keep our ship. And Chakotay is like, oh shit. Well, hey, let's just turn tail and run. Well, here's the bad news. We've actually been in their zone, their territory for the last 3 weeks. Chakotay goes, well, they didn't really mark that boundary very well, which when does a bad guy ever? And they begin kind of this conflict. Like, listen, we've been in tighter spots than this before. Like, shouldn't we have like a crew meeting? Shouldn't we like have a discussion? And you have a uh, very prickly response from the captain, endorsing basically her unilateral decision that this is the way it is. And then Chakotay tries to drop some shit on the table, like, you never act like this. You always involve other people. Blah, 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 blah. I completely forgot about Scorpion Part 1 and 2.
I've completely forgotten about all the other times I've given you advice and you've decided to ignore it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't just
Equinox. I can't remember Year of Hell, but that was a thing.
one detail that they got correct in the scene that I really liked was that they were portraying this race as having control basically all the way to the beta quadrant, which, based on like how the whole galaxy is kind of oriented, actually makes sense in terms of like the beta quadrant is between where the Voyager is and them actually getting back to the alpha quadrant.
I really like the angle of eco extremists objecting to warp
Subspace
propulsion,
pollution, yeah, because that's
which
a
is a
plot. Yeah, that's a thing.
that's a one of the most remarkable, I think, episodes of TNG dealt specifically with it, and I think it was a shame that it never went anywhere. That's where the Enterprise had eco terrorists, not terrorists, just environmental extremists,
Great,
basically.
yeah. Space Greenpeace basically instituted a galaxy-wide speed limit
And I
to
think
eliminate galaxy warming.
yeah.
That's what that was.
And the closest I think they ever came to any sort of follow up whatsoever on that episode is as a attempted explanation as to why Voyager has moving parts, why the warp nacelles pivot was to make a less intrusive warp bubble, which
They came up with the green energy solution or whatever to prevent the space warming. The cells move. That's apparently all you needed to do. A little hocus pocus.
it was a cool reference. But hey, listen, Chakotay, I've made up my mind. This is how it is. Keep this between us. I'll make a full announcement when the time is ready. But for right now, laying a course for this planet, and let's get rolling.
This fake Janeway then goes down and talks to B'Elanna and says, "Change. What would you do? What would you have to do hypothetically to tow a warp core at warp on the Delta Flyer? Oh, I'd have to do some space, mechanic stuff that I can instantly explain. Cool, go do that. Like, I thought that was hypothetical. It's not now. Go do it."
I like the Doctor laying multiple contingencies down here.
Janeway even says that, right? Like, she even alludes to the idea that the Doctor is going to come up with basically some way to deal with the scenario, which we're skipping ahead a little bit because this reveal doesn't happen until later. But eventually, as the Doctor's working his whole thing, he finally the veil is parted back, and we see that it is in fact the Tater Boys. Apparently, a couple rogue Tater Boys have captured the captain, and this whole getting Voyager's warp core thing is the price that they're demanding for Janeway's continued existence. That they have threatened to kill her unless the Doctor makes all this happen. And while they have their scenes that cut away to Tater Boy's ship, Janeway actually posits the idea of like, oh, the Doctor's doing some next level shit. You think you're tapped into his program, and you can see and hear everything he sees and hear. He's gonna find a way. He's gonna find a way to beat you. He's got a million things in his program about every tactical scenario. He'll figure it out. And it turns out that is true. And it is really neat that he's setting up these different ways of dealing with the scenario that he is unfortunately about to inflict on the ship.
Well, I think he does a great job laying multiple contingencies down to achieve success. If we're going to start getting into criticisms of the episode, it's that I don't think he's nearly as appropriately aggressive at directly confronting the threat in front of him with the Tater Boys. And I think, if anything, that's the episode's biggest shortcoming. Is, for all intents and purposes, he is this next level badass who bests, one of the best Starfleet crews out there at this point, instead of just kicking the shit out of these two clowns and beaming them off into space or something. So basically, the Tater Boys are employing technology we've already seen brought to the table before, and that is their ability with the technology that is available in the stolen ship. They've let, what's it called, the hierarchy?
That is correct.
They've left the hierarchy. These are fugitives, and they've stumbled across Voyager, and their sensors are able to directly tap into the Doctor, so he sees what they see, or they see what he sees.
Which
And
literally happened before when they did the ECH episode with the Tater Boys originally. Like, this is how they thought that the Doctor was super Billy Badass with the photonic cannon. because they were tapping into his program to do this. This is directly linked to that episode in that way.
So let me just go ahead and air my grievance right now. The doctor's decision to pursue this ridiculous agenda that they've laid out, because if he doesn't, they're going to kill Janeway. You're telling me that the doctor can be like, okay, well, you can see what I see and hear what I hear. Like, I'm going to look to the left while I write a note here where I'm not looking that says, Captain has been kidnapped. I'm being compelled to steal the warp core. They're at XYZ location. Send a strike team. Like, he all the stuff the doctor can do, and he can't just like write without looking at it.
They made it sound like it was more inclusive, but the way that they showed it was them watching it like it was Geordi's visor that was tapped. You know, it wasn't like it didn't. It looked like there was plenty of ways for him to get away with communicating in a way that was covert. I think the intention was that there wasn't, and that's what they were trying to convey, but they did not do it well, and it does leave this giant kind of hole where the doctor seems to be going through an inordinate amount of effort and incredible actions to get this fucking warp core when he really could have just put some kind of note in someone's locker and be like, PLZ help.
Yeah.
Big miss there.
And that's part A of the miss, and of course part B of the miss is that he runs up the fucking wall like Neo and steals a phaser out of Tuvok's hand and blasts him. He can't take down two Tater Boys with a sucker punch.
Like he didn't immediately just go back over to their ship and take one of their many available space pipes and just do what his buddy Lon taught him to do.
He could be like, hey, listen, there's two Tater Boys in front of me. That's two Tater Hearts. Let me show you what I learned in that episode where that rogue hologram squeezed Balana's heart through her chest. I'm going to rip your hearts out of your chest and take a bite with some straight up Shang Tsung bullshit. No, that was Kano that bit the heart.
It was, yeah.
So let me take those objections, those completely rational and episode traumatic observations, and I'm just going to set them off to the side so we can continue discussing what a badass the doctor is.
Yeah. If only he had used 5% of that effort to trounce some discount Delta Quadrant Ferengi, we wouldn't be in this mess. But he is. So we see a lot more of him working the angles to get this. He eventually actually, the way that the grift goes down is the Janeway disguise is starting to be difficult for him to maintain. So he quote unquote goes to his quarters. Chakotay goes to see the doctor, who has to beam in, very clear hint of what's going on. And from there sends him to go check on the captain. She's not feeling well. And there's this whole, kind of fugazi with him saying she's fine. And then he goes to check up on her again. And then that's when he finally is like connected enough dots that there's some fucky shit that's happening and manages to satisfy his potential suspicions by feeding the fake Janeway, that is the doctor, a fake story from Janeway's background that he then admits he made up and then tries to call security, only to find out the doctor's already anticipated that, put a dampening field on there, and then injects him with some night-night juice, and then hides him in the most metal place to hide someone, and that is Voyager's fucking morgue, a place we have never seen before.
Closest we've come to the morgue is that bio bed on the Delta Flyer where they were keeping Seven of Nine's corpse in Timeless. And this is going to become a little trope. This is a very solid Snake episode. He has truly learned from Lon Suter, and he is dragging unconscious foes into a closet where he's going to stick them long term. Sets up a dampening field so sensors aren't picking it up.
He straight up hit this guy with a stun gun and then puts him in the locker and is like, I really hope that his body doesn't fall out when the guard's on patrol later.
Don't worry, Chakotay. It's not going to be long until you have some company. Unfortunately, it's in the form of Garrett Wang. So what's going to happen is the doctor is going to continue trying to work this angle. Well, two angles, really. The A plan, which is we need to go to this planet where we're going to rendezvous and jettison the core. And the backup plan, which is in case I need to, I can smash glass and eject the warp core and try and fly off with the Delta Flyer and this thing in tow. And as he works deeper and more time goes on, more and more loose ends begin to unravel. More and more people will become suspicious. At a certain point, they catch a communication from the fantasy race of eco extremists demanding cooperation. That turns Seven of Nine and Kim on to investigating what's going on. And as these people get closer to the truth or become inconvenient, they catch a hypospray to the neck, get knocked out, and dragged off for storage. And I really like how the Doctor begins a collection of comm badges,
Yes, he keeps
of
taking.
dog tag like comm badges that he has harvested off of the fallen crew members.
Which he has to keep cycling through, and different crew members that he's impersonating and has been get incapacitated get called for by someone else.
Let's talk about the other sweet ass upgrade we see, and it's, oh, by the way, my only weak point, which is this fucking hollow emitter. Turns out I can stick this thing on my boot under my pant leg so no one sees it and knows it's a valid target. This secret technology that we cannot put out on the table until we're at the end of the series, and we do not have to be beholden to these feats of godhood.
My favorite Doctor impersonating someone beat was definitely supportive husband Tom coming to see what at that point is fake Balana after they do the gag where, oh, I have to be pregnant, because she is trying to get a bunch of bioneural gel packs as part of the negotiation with the Tater Boys of what's going to be necessary to save the captain, and he has to go up to the makeout/murder loft, and of course that is where Tom shows up with lunch.
With more
Like,
fried
hey,
chicken.
yeah, I want to feed my wife fried chicken. Tom's a feeder. This is his, that's his thing. The Doctor not knowing how to be married and being very stilted, and I'm like, oh, this is their normal dialogue.
Wow, there's more chemistry between fake Balana and Tom than there is real Balana and Tom most of the time.
But ultimately, the whole thing starts to fall apart the closer that the Doctor gets to finally trying to put the finishing touches on his plan, and Tuvok is the one that ultimately puts it together.
Gosh, how embarrassing. How embarrassing for Detective Tuvok to actually get the leg up on somebody, let alone AI.
I mean,
Hey,
it's some effort. I mean, it took some doing for that to happen in this episode.
we did scans on the Delta Flyer. The communications really weren't bad after all, like Janeway claimed they were. We noticed that when it was coming in, along that deflector dish communication signal, you also subvertly accessed the holomatrix and pulled part of the database down, which of course was going to be the Janeway thing. Can you explain this stuff? AKA the jig is up. He pulls the phaser out on the Doctor. Doctor's like, hey, in case you forgot, you can't kill me. And then Tuvok's like, yeah, well, how about this? And he shoots out one of the holo emitters. And then the Doctor quite literally jumps into action, and all your wildest holographic fantasies come true as he
Oh yeah,
jumps,
this is everything on your list.
minus grabbing his heart and squeezing it. He's jumping through walls, he's running through the table, he's turned on no clipping mode.
He changes the sensors basically so he can't be found, and they Tuvok is kind of onto his game a little bit. He makes it so that they're scanning for his future tech. It's Tom who's in command of the ship at this point because fucking so many people are unconscious or
Another half of the
unavailable.
bridge crew's in the fucking morgue.
So Tom's in the captain's chair. That probably hasn't happened since I guess Unimatrix Zero was the last time he was like he was just first officer then. Actually, I don't think he's been in the captain's chair probably since New Jack Neelix, and he's working with Tuvok to try and track down the Doctor, and eventually he switches up his appearance to Balana to try and bluff his way past Tuvok, but at this point he cannot be fooled. And
Because
that's
the
when we
tricorder that he has. Otherwise, it's a pretty convincing play he makes with this. You've got this slippery, slimy, not slimy, but this very convincing doppelganger just running hot game on the ship. Tuvok ain't having it. I know it's you. He's got the phaser on him. I was like, oh shit, here we go. And then just, we've talked about it 6 times now because it's that impressive.
It is out of nowhere. He runs up, goes across the wall,
Flip
plucks
kicks off the wall.
plucks the phaser out of Tuvok's hand as if he was taking a piece of candy from a wee baby, and then blasts him with it, and then like just drops the 9 and walks off. And we even get like a shot of like Tom being like, "Hey, Tuvok, I lost them. You know, there's a shuttle Tuvok," and there's an unconscious Tuvok unceremoniously flopped into the middle of the hallway, post phaser stun, not moving. They
Did
just
you watch WandaVision?
yes, I did.
Okay, well, remember that song, It's Agnes All Along?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, here's a song for you on this one. He was T-1000 all along. Straight, I was like, wow, what a horrifying. I mean, this is a very fun, warm-hearted episode. In reality, this should be fucking horrific. All right, for him realizing his true potential and the extremes he's going through to credibly play the crew against itself, to steal the fucking warp core, to run hot dick on the entire cast.
He is. It's amazing how effective he is. He does not make a single material mistake except talking to himself on the bridge as Janeway. That's the only time the veil drops for a second on purpose.
Had he had those 2 lines of ethical subroutines neutralized, and would not be too much of a goody two shoes to turn his hands into like guillotine blades, straight up T-1000 all over the place.
Imagine
And
if he had understood this potential when they built fucking hollow emitters in the entirety of the ship when the Herodian took it over. He could have just Matrix wall walked his way through all the Herodian, slappers only one shot kills all along, wipe them out.
I, by the end, Janeway lightly chastised. I'd be so fucking pissed and be like, you've been capable of this the entire time. And the number of instances you've allowed this ship to be taken over by hostile forces, you fucking asshole. You fucking asshole. So yeah, I mean, this should be a very scary series of events. And even by the end, again, the Doctor capable of doing all this stuff, this crazy Rube Goldberg machine of how to steal the warp core, when clearly the very simple right answer would have been to fuck up the Tater Boys, or to write a note looking the other way, like, this Death Star grade weapon you've had just chilling out in the sick bay, flashing lights on Howdy Doody's pecs, like really capable of going like crazy haywire rogue. And this is all like, the best of intentions. Uh, yeah, like, wow,
Yeah,
what a terrible thing you've wrought on us, when there was such a simple solution within grasp.
I mean, I think that you're correct in that this episode's only true genuine failure is not allowing the Doctor to be the one that like manages to Solid Snake solve the problem in the end, right? Like he doesn't have like a second level plan that he's been cooking the whole time. He's been basically buying time for himself by like enacting what the Tater Boys want, and then
Mm,
he like goes to deliver on it, and then is like, "Yeah, surprise, assholes! I was secretly like running hot dick on you the entire time too. Like I was using a carrier wave as a feedback loop and disable your ship using the transmission, frequency
or like,
that you're
hey,
using."
everything I've done was to piss enough people off that they would all converge on me at the same time from different directions and inadvertently catch you in the trap along with me. Like, yeah, I guess that's kind of the disservice, that he's this smart and this capable, but he has such bad butterfingers. But at this point, he's getting shit done. All right, the jig is up. Um, he has knocked Chakotay into next week. He runs in to engineering, and he's got the old Chakotay disguise back up. Oh my god, there's a sensor misreading. The Doctor is going to blow up the ship. Get everybody out of here. We're going to have a warp core breach. Leave. B'Elanna save your baby, get out of here. And she's like, okay, you hit the right button for me. I'll back off.
Only to at the last second hear from Tom on the bridge, "Oh hey, the signature of the mobile emitter is right in front of the warp core. That's the doctor." And as a little cherry on top of the secret agent Sunday, how is it that the doctor successfully ejects the core? He turns himself into the ECH, the emergency command hologram, puts on the red uniform, gets his hollow pips, and confidently engages the warp core to eject, and then get beats feet to the Delta Flyer and is off the ship.
There's that redundant backup plan. Smash and grab. How great would it have been when he enacts the ECH if he like went to go hit the button to eject the warp core, just like, wow, what am I doing? Oh fuck. I've been a real dummy. That doctor version of me missed.
It's like, wait a second, all this is a bad idea.
Yeah. I could have just slapped both the Tater Boys in their hearts and been done with this. Moops.
He takes the warp core to where the Tater Boys are at, and there's like nibbly Tater Boy, and there's asshole Tater Boy, and you can see it coming a mile away how this is gonna go. Like Janeway's trying to buddy up to the nibbly Tater Boy while the asshole Tater Boy's abusing him,
Like
and
you do. This
like
is
you do.
and there's no way to know. I mean, these guys are so foreign. They all look the same. I couldn't for a second. I was like, man, are these the original like two Tater Boys from Tinker, Tenor, Doctor Spy? I don't think it is though. I think there would have been some real discussion about like, we know what you're capable of, blah blah blah. I think these are just two rando Tater Boys.
I'm gonna double check here real quick, because the nibbly one definitely like is like the guy who is the super fan. No, it's not. It's a different dude. You are correct. They have never appeared in any other episodes, but like fulfilled similar roles though to the Tinker Tailor Doctor Spy um episode, where one of them is super into the Doctor's exploits and the other one is like trying to profit from it. Um, they have, of course, asshole Tater Boy immediately betrays the Doctor and like steals the warp core and then like beams him into the brig. And Janeway's like, oh, "Of course, now we're all completely fucked. Thanks, buddy." But ultimately, we find the Doctor did in fact have a backup plan to his backup plan, and that was an audio cue that played for the ship when they reactivated the backup power, the impulse engines. And it's a piece of music that is purposefully incorrectly played, that he apparently played for recital for all of them previously. And when they look at the audio log, they see that the pattern of the incorrect piece matches a warp signature that is actually in front of them after they scan for it, giving them a clear path to where the Tater Boys are hiding. They don't have a warp core though, so they send Tom and Tuvok in a shuttlecraft to go see what the fuck is going on.
I want to say that I never get tired of seeing the warp core ejected. It
Oh
was
yeah, it was a
cool.
great effect. It's cool out there in space. It's a neat thing that Voyager can do.
It was, well, it's a neat thing that all the Berman era starships can
Yeah,
do.
it's the only time
Sure,
seeing is on
But I
Voyager.
mean, it was cool in hey, wow, look, Joe.
But they could have saved the D if they ejected the core. Yeah, I mean, that's been brought up many times.
The last time we saw the warp core ejected was B'Elanna Has a Bad Day.
Correct.
Who was the special guest alien race in that?
It was those guys who were like super abused by the Borg and were like,
yeah, that's what they really are. But I mean, what do we call them?
I forget what we call
the
them.
Fried chicken people, Joe.
Oh, that's right.
And here's another episode where they eject the warp core, heavily featuring fried chicken.
To the point where there's like dialogue about its unhealthiness.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Fried chicken and warp core ejections go hand in hand. Also, what goes hand in hand is going to be my criticism that you lost the warp core. You're stuck in the fucking Delta Quadrant. You are dead in the water. You are a sitting duck, okay? And you know where the warp core is. And all you do is you send out one rinky-dink bullshit class 2 shuttlecraft with 2 fucking people. You get everybody on every shuttlecraft and life pod and whatever. You get Ayala in a fucking shuttlecraft with as many pipes as he can hold, and you collectively send a fucking lynch mob out to this place, and you beat the fuck out of the people who have stolen your warp core. You don't send 2 people out in one I'm designed to explode from the ground up Type 2 shuttlecraft. The fuck out of here. What, did you suddenly run out of money at the end of this episode? There should have been an armada of shuttlecraft flying. There should have been people
That
standing
should have
on
been the
pieces of
show,
the hull.
because it's about like how many times the shuttlecraft exploded, how many shuttlecraft were on the ship. It's like they should have leaned into that. They should have shown you one of the crew members from the Equinox, and he gets in a shuttle, and it's got like a torpedo like taped to the front.
That's what I was going to say.
And
Like,
now, like Chakotay says, you know what you have to do. Like
you should have holographic Klingon, fucking 7 of 9 riding a photon torpedo like the Silver Surfer in her first generation cat suit, ready to fucking beat ass. Ridiculous.
they send the one shuttle, they show up, and they manage to
With Tom, which is a good pick because he's a Mary Sue, but then Tuvok, who has like a 50% chance of getting his ass kicked in any encounter.
but they get Tom onto the Delta Flyer, and then they start 2v1ing the Tater Boys, who apparently are not built for a fight. Their power goes down, so we start some low intensity Trek fighting, where the Doctor, who we get in dialogue, is starting to like be overwhelmed by all the changes the Tater Boys are making, and he might decompile. He gets into a like hand-to-hand combat, but apparently all that decompiling made him forget his fucking T-1000 sweet ninja moves.
Not buying it. Not
Like,
buying it. When
totally-
you just had this guy run up the fucking wall
Yeah.
like a Jedi Knight in a 90s video game, and now all of a sudden he can't melee a Tater Boy. Like, I was like, oh man, I hope he like manifests a third arm and like uppercut punches him.
You've played Symphony of the Night, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you start out and Alucard's got all that cool weaponry and you're just like cruising, and then you run into death and he takes all your weapons.
Not
You know,
buying it.
Doctor ran into death. It took all of his power-ups.
Everything after the Doctor gets fucking beamed into the brig, because they even like have him come out and he's just standing there. I'm like, dude, turn those hands into like lightsabers and cut these. None of it. Like, all the badassery stops the second the Doctor is not actively working against his own crew. There is a pretty cool part where Bad Tater Boy tells Nibbly Tater Boy, beam their warp core out into space, and then I'm going to hit it with a photon torpedo, and it's going to blow these fucking guys up, and we're just going to scoot off. Nibbly Tater Boy, this starts crossing lines. He did not sign up for murder, and he is not okay with the drastic evil turn these events have taken. And that will manifest itself as a plasma relay that he busts evil Tater Boy over the head with like a sawed-off pool cue.
You know what? It's close enough to a space pipe for government work. That's a space pipe if I've ever seen one. And Nibbly Tater Boy makes the turn that you expected from the moment you met him. He ends up back in Team Good Guys and essentially saves the day by enabling the captain, the Doctor, and the warp core and everything to go back where it belongs. But before we end this episode, though, we are treated to the world's most awkward scene, but played for amazing laughs. As the Doctor is decompiling, that he is in the holodeck, they're trying to save him. He thinks he's going to die. They keep trying to interrupt him to tell him, no, really, you're not going to die. It's going to be fine. But he's too dramatic. He can't hear them. You know, he's stuck in the moment. He's in his dramatic moment. And so he goes around and then makes incredibly embarrassing confessions to almost everyone in the room. He's like, hey, Captain, I once kept a log of how shitty you were at your job.
Got to burn on you.
Yeah, please burn my burn book. hey, Harry, I'm really sorry that I told people you're terrible at playing the fucking saxophone.
Tuvok, I told Neelix you got chlamydia.
Yeah, you got genital warts, and I told people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. And
7
then,
and 9.
oh, that's the best one. That's the best one because he goes to look at 7 of 9, and she knows from the start what he's going to confess. Okay, she knows, and she's like, "Please, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it." And comes up, and she has got this look on her face of like, "Holy shit! I can't believe you're embarrassing yourself like this right now. Like, please stop. Please stop. Don't please stop saying how much you love me. Oh my god, no, don't do it." It's
Listen,
great.
buddy, we all saw your dirty fantasies in the Tater Boy episode.
Yeah, we know. We know you painted me like one of your French girls. I get it.
Mhm.
We all get it. Don't have to do this.
We all know where these implants came from, and they weren't the Borg.
But of course, he makes his dramatic confession of love to 7 of 9, says farewell, only to be immediately recompiled by B'Elanna and then come back.
I love it. That program cuts out Janeway very concerned. Tell me we didn't lose. And then B'Elanna just cuts her out. No, I got him.
Yeah, he's fine.
No, I
He was fine the whole time.
the the smarminess. No, I got him. I would like for that to be my text message, like chime on my phone. That's
No,
A plus. So
Yeah.
good.
Just the right amount of contempt was good.
And perfect. Which again,
That's why I love the scene. It's like everyone was like correct on where their characters are at. Like Jerry Ryan's facial expressions while the fucking confession is like reflective of her like newly found humanity, and is like, oh damn, this is awful. This is so bad for you.
B'Elanna never gets knocked out in this. He impersonates her, but he doesn't zap her out first.
Correct. The only people who actually get got are Chakotay, Harry, and
Tuvok.
And a captain, I guess, is technically incapacitated.
He doesn't knock her out, though. Wow, in a rare turn of events, the first and only time the Doctor goes rogue and does not victimize B'Elanna in the process. Wow, how far we've come as a character.
I guess there was infidelity. He kissed her husband.
That kiss was foursome. That was not consensual. Tom's like, hey, it's cool. I was in prison. I do this all the time.
So the Doctor is embarrassed. He doesn't want to leave sickbay.
I'm suddenly reminded of the time that the Doctor blipped into her view screen in the bathroom.
Correct.
And had like a weird hanging moment of like lecherously looking at her. What a complicated relationship those two have.
We end the episode where we began, with the Doctor basically like with the captain wanting to socialize with the Doctor and treat him like a person, and just completely does not talk about the fact that the Doctor ran hot dick over all the ship, broke every rule, ejected the warp core, nearly imperiled their entire ability to get home. He's like,
for the flimsiest of reasons.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, I'm not gonna let you use your mobile emitter for 6 days, but you've been in here for a week, so now you can use your mobile emitter. Come get coffee with me.
I got a cool place in Buenos Aires I know about.
No, not Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires. Like, very overpronounced, like, very Buenos Aires.
Again, the fact that the real criminal act here isn't him running hot dick all over the crew. It's her not confronting him and saying, you remember Hogan? How Hogan died when a dinosaur bit his head off because we got invaded by a Kazon that you could have absolutely fucking neutralized in the blink of an eye. You stingy sandbagging motherfucker.
Yeah, Hogan remembers that too, especially when Neelix told him to stand on the death mark.
Hogan's ripped up, bled on uniform, tattered remains that the dinosaur people scooped up off the planet might remember. Hogan does not remember because he is dino worm shit somewhere right now.
Well, they killed that dino, right? And also, like, that rando Vulcan died in the process.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
All right. Well, I think we've
Yeah,
talked this one through. It's pretty good. Like, it's not a bad episode. It's fun for us because we have leaned in so much on like the doctor should be a badass, and then it just pays off like this. Uh,
absolutely. And I'm sure they won't go anywhere near this level of competency in Threshold. But yeah, this is definitely that super weapon you get at the end of the video game that is just way overpowered. You have to introduce this thing as literally the last normal episode because of the absurd competency it puts in the hands of this guy. Absolutely, T-1000 after all. Move over, Skynet. There's a new AI in town.
Peter, for the last time, what are we watching next week?
All right. We're going to be going into Season 6, Episode 21, Live Fast and Prosper. We can do that, right? We can
You just want to loop us
perpetually
back around to their greatest hits?
just perpetually shrug off the creeping advances of Enterprise by living in Voyager. We're at the end, Season 7, Episode 25, Endgame. We've got what looks like some Starfleet people, probably cadets. I don't see department colors. These guys are wearing the All Good Things Future Federation uniforms with the cool badges. Voyager's quest to return home is aided by a visitor from the future, Admiral Catherine Janeway. Take that, temporal space directive.
It is quite fitting that the last episode of this show about a woman who once said that she hates time travel involves her engaging in gross temporal violations. But you'll have to tell me what you think. Of the finales, I think Voyagers is considered, not certainly the worst, but I think it's definitely worse than All Good Things, and I would say it's
Well, what's
probably
not worse than
DS.
All Good Things? I mean, that's
Yeah, it's
all good.
perfect.
Yes.
I have always thought of Endgame as a good finale to Voyager. Like, if you've got to end this story at some point, right? You've got to have them actually finally get a shortcut home that works. That's always been what's on the table for how the show comes to an end, and it was never going to end any other way. So with that in mind, the story they come up with to finally pull that trigger is a pretty good one, and they spend the time. It's feature length. They spend the time to build it up and pay it off in a way that's pretty satisfactory. We'll see if that's assessment stands up after a rewatch here, but I'll obviously be very interested in what you have to say, having finally concluded watching the entirety of a Star Trek series not named TNG. This will be a new thing for you.
Yeah, it will. Because Lower Decks is not wrapped yet. So,
all right, everybody, we deeply appreciate your continued journey with us and V'ger, please. As a reminder, as we've alluded to, just because we're ending our run on Voyager does not mean V'ger, please is ending. Indeed, we will be beginning episodes on Star Trek Enterprise beginning in March of 2022. We want to take some time off, not just to have a little bit of a breather, but also get going on a whole new kind of production schedule. You might have already heard via my own voice that we're improving our production quality to the extent possible, and we're gonna be doing a lot of that to kind of like celebrate a new chapter with a fresh look. So, if you are hearing this and thinking, "Oh no, this new podcast I just discovered is coming to an end," it is not, and we'll continue on strong. And we look forward to having you along for the ride. And until next week, when we finally review Voyager's last episode, take care.